So the Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton remains at home in Chappaqua, New York at this hour, recovering from pneumonia. But she is now dealing with new questions about the secrecy surrounding her health. And she's opened herself up to new attacks from rival Donald Trump. KCAL9 political reporter Dave Bryan joins us now with Clinton's reaction to all of this. And you've been following this, of course, from the very beginning, Dave.
Absolutely, Jeff. And there is a California connection to the Clinton health issues tonight. Hillary Clinton was supposed to be in Northern California tonight, presiding over a campaign fundraiser in the San Francisco area. Well, after the events of the past 24 hours and her scary stumble on Sunday, blamed on pneumonia and dehydration, she remains in her sickbed tonight, able only to telephone call into the fundraiser to thank her supporters. For the first time Monday night, Hillary Clinton talked about her health problems and the stumble seen around the world on Sunday. In an interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper.
I felt dizzy, and I did lose my balance for a minute. But once I got in, once I could sit down, once I could cool off, once I had some water, I'm now taking my doctor's advice, which was given to me on Friday that I ignored, to just take some time to get over pneumonia completely.
The campaign has announced it will be releasing more information about Clinton's health soon. But there are still plenty of questions about the pneumonia that she's recovering from now, as CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. John LaPook told evening news anchor Scott Pelley.
What's the size of the pneumonia, meaning how much of the lung is involved? And we certainly don't know that at all. And then what's the bug that's causing it? Now, she's on antibiotics. That treats bacterial pneumonia, but exactly what's being done to determine the organism that's causing it.
In an exclusive interview, Bill Clinton told CBS This Morning anchor Charlie Rose it wasn't the first time this has happened to his wife. In response to this question from Rose.
When you look at that collapse, that video that was taken, you wonder if it's not more serious
than
dehydration.
She's been, well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all of her doctors. Rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many, many years, the same sort of things happened to her when she just got severely dehydrated.
The episode has also raised questions about Hillary Clinton's campaign transparency. Even some Democrats, like Obama campaign strategist David Axelrod, asked, what's the cure for an unhealthy penchant for privacy? He was referring to the decision not to disclose that Clinton had pneumonia until Sunday, 2 days after she found out.
In retrospect, we probably could have released more information more quickly. She made the decision that she wanted to power through, keep her schedule, and because she didn't think it was going to affect any of her activities, she just wanted to keep going.
Clinton was asked about the secrecy in her CNN interview.
Doesn't your handling of this confirm the suspicion of some voters that you're not transparent or trustworthy?
Oh, my goodness, Anderson. You know, compare everything you know about me with my opponent. I think it's time he met the same level of disclosure that I have. If we weren't fast enough, I've talked to my staff. We take responsibility for that. But the information is out there.
But in a cable interview, Trump suggested the American people are not getting the full story.
She was coughing very, very badly a week ago, and even before that, if you remember. This wasn't the first time. So it's very interesting to see what is going on.
Nonetheless, USC political science professor Ange-Marie Hancock doesn't think Clinton's pneumonia will be a campaign game changer.
I do think it will have a slight impact. Essentially, what we're talking about is really at the margins, though, in terms of its impact. Most people really do have their opinion of Hillary Clinton pretty well fully formed because she's been in the public eye for so long.
While the debate over the handling of Clinton's pneumonia continues to heat up, Donald Trump took dead aim at this statement she made last Friday about Trump's supporters.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
At a rally in North Carolina Monday night, Trump had a field day with that one.
Never in history has a major party presidential candidate so viciously demonized the American voter. She was attacking millions of moms and dads who love their children and want a better future for all Americans.
And the Trump campaign revved up this TV ad.
You know what's deplorable? Hillary Clinton viciously demonizing hard-working people like you.
But Trump's own statements and his hesitation to repudiate some white supremacist supporters may have fueled the perception that racists and immigrant haters are welcome.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. Look at my African American over here. Look at him.
In March, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said this about some of Trump's supporters.
35% of my party believes that Obama is a Muslim born in Kenya. He's locked that crowd down.
But at his North Carolina rally Monday night, Trump brought some of his supporters on stage, including a few African Americans, to refute Clinton's characterization of half of his supporters.
My wife and I represent non-deplorable people. I and my wife have spent 85 years in public education. We are not racist at all.
Now, in an interview today, Trump's running mate Mike Pence said the party rejects the support of racists like David Duke, but he refused to call Duke deplorable when asked about his response to Hillary Clinton's basket remark. Also, one other note, Hillary Clinton won't be attending campaign fundraisers in Southern California tomorrow, but Bill Clinton is scheduled to fill in for her, Jeff.
You know, David, depends on the polls, but it is still a pretty close race. We have about 2 months to go here in this pneumonia episode here and the lack of transparency afterwards. Will this have any effect on the campaign, do you think? Will it sway voters?
You know, it has, I think, some potential to have an impact, and I mean it in this way. There are basically two issues here. Hillary Clinton's fitness to be president in terms of her health, and questions about her handling of her illness, with questions about why it took 2 days and a video of her near collapse in New York Sunday before the truth was told about her pneumonia. And the question is whether these issues will contribute to the perception that she's not open and transparent, especially when negatives are involved. And while the polls indicate most Americans have already made up their minds, it's the independent voters in the middle who maybe haven't decided and could be influenced by this. On the other hand, the debates, the first of which takes place in 2 weeks, could push all the rest of this stuff way into the background, Jeff. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we will. Okay, Dave, thank you so much.